So we're going to start from the top of Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis. Tan Rabban. The Mishnah had said like Desha Sheba Yiftu, which was our Mishnah had said a list of like 4 lines up in the narrow lines in the Mishnah. It's a big Mishnah. Desha Sheba Yiftu Trumas Yirkavu Ma'aser Sheni V'Kasei Kodesh Yignaizu. That's our Mishnah synopsis of what the conclusions are. What the Brisa reiterates them. Tanaraban, Hayuba Kachim, if the Ir Nidachas had people in it that possessed Kachim, or they had Kachim, Kachim Mizbeach Yamusu. Kachim Mizbeach. So Rashi explains what Hayuba Kachim Mizbeach. Going Oilis Vashamas, you had actual karbanas. Someone had set aside an animal to be a oilo or carbon or asham. Shal Rishayim B'Seicha. That means they ask why Rashi has to say B'Dafka Rishayim, because the possessions of the Hadadigim also get destroyed. Nihidalei Karinim hu as kol behemta lefi charav. Even though we're not going to apply, we can't apply the halacha. The general halacha is that whatever is the possessions of the city gets burnt, and the animals, the Torah says, lefi charav, that they have to be put to the sword. So that this being put to the sword is not applicable to kachim. The haloloi behemtehi, ala behemis shemayim. Once it's already set aside to be kachim, it's the Rebbeinu Shalom's. It doesn't belong anymore to the individual who was part of the city. It's as if, someone else, like we said, a pekadon of someone from a different city doesn't get the din of the possessions of the city. So the same thing with this animal. Ella mi'isusa hu lahakav kabana shorashayim halalu. It's meistic. It's disgusting to bring as a carbon, so the carbon of somebody who was Avid of his kachavim and was sentenced together with the whole city as a ir nidachas. Shehudchu. That was already shoshem halu shehudchu, that they had been enticed and be involved in avodah zarah. Helduch yamusu, what was yamusu mean? Kainzen aslan lekipa or machilon etzim to irim adshe kresa nivkas. You put them into a jail. You put them into a pasture, I guess, and you feed them a bunch of barley until they explode. So the rule is that you're not allowed to have any enough from them. So you can't just leave them wandering around. So you have to make sure that they die, but they can't be hukrav. So you have to kill them in a way that there's no hana. So this is what you do. So that is kache kachim mizbeach yamusu. Kache bede kabayis, which is someone who had something that he designated for to use to build up the Beis Hamikdash. The din is on that yiftu. You paid it. It means they're essentially that they like we said, it belongs to kachim, and therefore gets treated like kachim. What you always do with that is if someone gives an animal to kache bedek habayis, I mean, it has to be an animal. Let's say a horse. It can't be. You're not allowed to. I don't think you can give to kache bedek habayis an animal that's royal misbeach. But someone gives a horse. So what you do is you sell it, and you use the money. You apply it toward the needs of the Beis Hamikdash. So that's what happens to this as well. Utrumas yirkavu. Trumas. Now the Gemara is going to go into great detail about what the case of trumas is. But trumas, we're going to say that it's not going to be burnt as part of the kachim, as part of the ir nidachas. So you're going to have to leave it, and you can't it can't be eaten. We'll see who it belongs to. It does belong. Is it by a kohen? Is it by Yisrael? What exactly the case is? And weiter, u'ma'aser sheni or kisvei hakodesh yignezu. The ma'aser sheni and things that and svarim, you have to put them away. Again, these are things that really belong to the owner, but you can't treat them disrespectfully. Obviously, you're not going to burn kisvei kodesh and ma'aser sheni. So what you do is you put them away. Shimon Omer, behemta V'loy behemus b'charu ma'aser. Rav Shimon adds on to the Tanakama that the Torah said that it's only that when it says lefi charav, that applies to behemtai, and that excludes not the bechor, not the behema that's a bechor, and a behema of meiser. That means it's again, it's not going to. Well, let's see what Rashi says about it. Shimon Aimer l'kamam mafarish taima. He doesn't say it over here, but he's going to say later on that they're not considered to be behemta. It's not considered to be. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not. Doesn't belong to the people who live there. And the Gemara is going to explain what the chiddush of this is. Right? A behema is a behemoth's bechar or meiser. Behema. When we're talking about meiser over here, we're talking about meiser behema. The din is with these things that they're brought as a carbon. The bechar you give to a kayan and it belongs to the kayan and he brings it as a carbon, but it belongs to the kayan 100%. And not, well, I should say 99%. There's restrictions about what he can do with it. He can't then resell it, but he can't use it for work.
Rav Shimon argues on the Tanakama.
I don't think he's arguing. Is he arguing yet? I mean,
because we said like Oilus and Ashama, it's a mios, right? So why wouldn't this
be to bring it as a carbon?
Yeah. So why wouldn't this be considered?
So I'm saying we're saying these are also not going to be. We're not saying that they get destroyed with the Ir Nidachas. He's including them as well. We're going to explain where later on is going to explain exactly what Rav Shimon where he disagrees. But this I think is really together. It's still with the Tanakama. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly if this is a machlokes.
Right.
I guess because the Gemara is going to say what it means. Because it's not really Kadshe Mizbeach per se, because it really belongs to the person. We'll see. We'll see what we're talking about. And then a second in of Rav Shimon. Shlala, it says it has to be spoils of the city. Prat lekesef hekdesh v'kesef meiser. If someone had hekdesh that they were paid to the hekdesh, so now they got money in exchange for the thing that they were makdish, and that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, to Bedek Habayis, or Meiser Sheni that he was paid, so he has the money for Meiser, which is really that's the point of the machlek, because that he's being chaylik, that he's saying that can't be brought. But we had before said Kasher Bedek Habayis Yiftu, that you can be paid it, and then you could use that for the Bedek Habayis. And we're saying Kesef Meiser is excluded, that you can't, it can't be, it's not going to be destroyed. Right? We had said that, I'm sorry, we had said before.
No, we said
it's not about it's not about Yiftu, it's talking about the Yignazu of Meiser Sheni, because V'Kadosh Yignazu, because you don't have the option of being paid to the Meiser Sheni. And now he's saying, no, it belongs to you fully, and you can be paid it. It's excluded from the din of the Ir Nidachas, meaning that it's fully available. Amarma, hayuba kachim mizbeach yamusu. The first din that we had said, that kachim mizbeach, like we said, Rashi said, oilo or an asham. There's a reason why the Gemara Rashi studiously avoids a chatas, and we're going to see in a minute why. But if it was kachim mizbeach yamusu v'ama yamusu yirachi yistova yimko v'yiflu d'meim l'nedava. Why do we have to say it has to be killed? Now Rashi had already started telling us the pshat, but the Gemara is going to work its way toward this according to one shita. Why don't we say, let's wait till it gets a mum? Obviously, we understand you can't bring it as a carbon. But let's wait till it gets a mum. There's no, the reason you can't bring it as a carbon is because there's no bilam. The bilam's getting killed. But let's wait for it to get a mum, which is what you do normally with these karbanos when the bilam dies, and you'll sell it, and you'll use the damim for nadava on the mizbeach. So Rabbi Yochanan says the reason why you can't do that is zevach rishayim te'eva. No, zevach te'eva, meaning to the extent that since this is coming from a Rasha, from a Ir Nidachas, it's tainting even the money that you'll get, and even that money will not be usable to buy a Nadava. The Shlakish Amar says goes the other direction. The Shlakish says, Mama Bailamu. We're not talking about Stam Kachim. The case that we're talking about over here is where a person made a neder. We said Harei Alai. We had this distinction between neder and nadava many times. So when you, I again, I have the mental block of which is which, but he says Harei Alai, that he's taking on the gavra, that he himself is responsible to bring a carbon. So if something happens to it, he's still going to be responsible to it. So that is still considered to be his, even though he gave it as a carbon, even though it's hoktish as a kachem mizbeach. And therefore, that's why you can't say sell it and yiflu l'nedava, because it's still, since it belongs, it is included in the lefi charav. Now, lemaisa, you can't kill it lefi charav because it's kachem, but it also can't be sold. It can't be yiru achi yistavu and then be nifta. Rav Shimon Hidama Mamam Bailamu is going to Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon is the man Amar who says that achrayis kachem shai b'chusin is considered by Mamam Bailam. You want to ask the obvious question: how in the sefer of Shimon he racial of Rav Shimon? We have Rav Shimon's machlekes later on, the gabi the behemoth meiser and the behemoth of a bechar. The bechar. So how could we say that's Rav Shimon? So how could you say the ratio is Rav Shimon? So the Gemara says no. So you're right. They can't be talking about where it's a carbon with achrayis. It's talking about kachim kalam v'alibid Rabbi Yossi Aglili. It's not Rabbi Yev Shimon, but rather it's talking about kachim kalam according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Damar kachim kalam mam and bailam hu. Kachim kalam is considered mam and bailam. He says, Rashi brings legabi the din that if someone is kaifer, if he denies that he owes, he makes a shvur denying something, he has to pay a chaimish. So the question is, if he owes, Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, if the thing that he's denying is kachim kalim, that is considered to be the mam and bailam that he's denying, and he would have to pay. It would be considered that he has to pay the chaimish. It belongs to the person that he stole it from, and therefore the din would apply. So he says kachim kalim is mam and bailam, and that's the reason why we say kachim izbech yamusu. You have to kill it because you don't have an option. You can't bring it as a carbon. Again, it belongs to the bailam, but you certainly can't bring it as a carbon, and you can't also the bailam is going to die, and you can't put it to the sword like the rest of the possessions of the Ir Nidachas. So according to this, Rav Shimon, that the Bryce, our Mishnah, our Bryce, I should say, that says Kachem Mizbeach is Yamusu, it's only talking about Kachem Kalam, but if it would be Kachem, then would be, you could be paid it. It's a regular, it's not Mam Bailam, it's Mam Gavai. It has nothing to do with this owner. So he doesn't ruin it at all. So you could be paid it and use the Mammon. And so if that's the case, Adutani Sefer Kachem by the Kabayis Yiftu, why do we have to say the din of where you have Yiftu? By Kachem by the Kabayis, because that's Mammon Hektish, and there's no problem to be paid it. The reason why you can't do that, given the ikachatas, since like Rashi said the dafka oila and asham, because everyone knows that when we'll get to kachim, we'll see it all the time. The chata shemesu balel has a special din that it gets misa. Lemisa azalei psikale. You can't say it's paidu. You can't say kachim is padi because there's chatas which is not going to be able to be included as a general rule. Sektamar. Bishlam Rabbi Yechon Yamakre Shlakish Tachsev Zevach Rishayim Te'eva. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold like Reish Lakish because he says the pasuk says Zavach Rishayim Teva. So don't tell me that it belongs to Hektish and therefore it's Yiftu. It doesn't have anything to do. If the pasuk says Zavach Teva, Zavach Rishayim Teva, it has a taint on it and it can't be brought. El Reish Lakish my tamalam loyamak Rabbi Yehuda. Amalach kiyamin Zavach Rishayim Teva hanimili hechad isnehu behenu. That's only when the animal is still around. That aval hacha kimin ishtani that if it's still the same animal that you want to say you want to bring it as a carbon. So you could say to bring it as a carbon. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, he would be saying that any animal that's kacheh, that's shayach to have this din, that it would become belong where it would belong to the owner, is going to be excluded. So Rish Lakish says where you're trying to be paid to the animal, since it's not going to be the same animal, he doesn't hold that there's a taint that goes onto that animal and therefore it will remain usher to be brought on the mizbeach. Yeah. So he holds it only goes on the animal, not to the money. Okay. Zaktumah. Rishimon Omer. Behemtecha v'loy behemis b'charu ma'aser. The Brisa had said that Rav Shimon says that the din of irani dachas includes it says behemtecha, but not the behema of b'char ma'aser. But my asking, what is this case of behema of b'char ma'aser? Ilem betmimim. If we're talking about a behema b'char ma'aser, that one of the inhabitants had a b'char ma'aser and it's fully ready to be brought as a carbon, which is its din. It's supposed to be brought as a shlomim. And then the owners eat the basar. Between shal shemaimhu, that certainly we're going according to the Manda Amar. The kashim is back. We're going to be going according to the Manda. This is kashim kalam. The kashim kalam is not
Bailam.
It's.
And what about Zerach Risham Teva? Why is that?
Because, like we said before, anyway. Yeah, so we're not. I don't think Rav Shimon is saying that it's going to go to. It's going to be brought as a carbon. He's going to be saying yiftu, and we're going to be going. We're going to go. So we're going to see in a second. Between Minshal Shemaimu, and therefore it should be. So we're excluding. We're saying it doesn't have the din of.
You don't need
What's going to happen after that? That's the. I'm sorry.
You don't need a separate behemtecha to tell you that.
We don't. It's
excluded
in shol in the din, the general din, that it's not shol shamayim. Yeah. So zakti Gemara. So it's talking about where it has a mum in it, where therefore the owner on a bachar or a behemoth, they're allowed to eat it straight. They're allowed to, once it has a mum, you could just shecht it and eat it as regular meat. So shlalin, and then the problem is the other direction. It's certainly 100% his possession, and it should be part of the erni dachas. Amar Avina la'olam bebali mum, and it is bali mum. Umisha nechal b'taris behemtecha. Yatsu elu she'ein nechalim b'taris behemtecha. Gemara says, this is the way Rashi describes it, but the way I understand it is that there still are restrictions on it. It's still not behemtecha entirely. It means you can't use it for work. It can't be sold in the market. It's not really 100% yours. So this is still excluded, that it's not yours, that it could be brought, it could be slaughtered on the street, becharev, like every other animal. So it's not really being eaten as your animal, but the shal shamayim ninu. because it's therefore ultimately it's Shal Shemayim, it's not yours. Pliga de Shmuel, this pshat of Ravina is not like Shmuel. He has a different, he understands the din of Shimon differently. The Amar Shmuel, hakol karav, hakol nifta. Everything is carved and everything is nifta. What does that mean? My comment. The Gemara asks, what does that mean? Harikam. Kol shekarv kshu tam, v'nifta kshu ba'al mum. Whatever can be brought when it's not doesn't have a mum, when it's a tam, but if it becomes a ba'al mum, it gets padi, meaning it doesn't become eligible for you to eat right away, but it still needs pidyon. Mishal imit. Then it's no longer shal. You learn it out from different psukim. When the Torah says mishal v'loy shal shamayim, so something that still needs pidyon is more related to shamayim. It's more kaddish. Even after it gets a mum, it's still not roy to be eaten immediately. You have to be paid in order to eat it. But that you learn out from behema. The Torah says behema, but not something that this really is not shol shemayim, because it's something that's eligible to have this din. So then it's going to be excluded. It's not going to be included from in the din of ir nidachat.
In other words, b'char meiser are not considered shlal shemayim, and therefore you need behemtecha to exclude it.
Right. Yeah. Amar of Chizda, Trumas Yirkuv. We say Trumas, they're left to rot. Amar of Chizda, Loishanu ela Trumas bidei biyad Yisrael. It's only Truma that's a yid. He grew his crops, and he separated Truma, but he hasn't yet given it to a kohen, so it's not really his. He can't get anything out of this Truma. He only has, I guess, Taivas and that he could give it to someone, but it doesn't belong to him. But if it would be by a kohen, the kohen is eligible to eat it 100%. Master Rabbi Yosef, Meiser Sheni b'kisvei hakodesh yignazu. Meiser Sheni, where someone has, we'll see exactly what this Meiser Sheni is. It's either Tvua that you have to bring to Yerushalayim, or he already brought to Yerushalayim, or Kesef that he's going to bring to Yerushalayim. But Kisvei HaKodesh certainly belongs to him 100%. Yignazu. But even so, even though it belongs 100% to you, we don't say it gets burnt together with everything else. So this behema shouldn't get killed or get together with all the animals. Ma'aser Sheni b'yad Yisrael, Ma'aser Sheni by a yid, Ketruma b'yad Kayin. It's 100% belongs to the yid, just like the Truma is the Yad Kayin. And even so, the din is Yignazu. Aliyat Mahachim. You have to understand exactly the other way around. Amar Chiz the Loishna Truma v'Yad Kayin. This din that we say that Yerkavu is only Truma in the hand of a Kayin. Avol Truma v'Yad Yisrael Tinasul leKayin Shabir Acheres. That's taka not his. That he doesn't have a right really to keep it. He doesn't belong to him. He has to find a kohen. He has a right to decide which kohen gets it, but it belongs to that kohen. So therefore, it should still be given to a kohen. Tan Hasan. The Gemara brings a related question. Isa shal meiser sheni. If you have dough of meiser sheni, ptura min ha chala. Divrei Meir. Meir says you don't have to take chala from it, because as we're going to see, the Gemara is going to explain the reason why. So the reason of it, so the Remeir says you don't have to take challah from Meiser Sheni. Chum say you are mechayiv. Amru Chizah machlokes, but Meiser Sheni b'Yushalayim. What is this machlokes? It's talking about when the person went to Yerushalayim, and at this point we're assuming he took his tefua and he made himself an isa. So now he's sitting there ready to eat. All he has to do is bake it, and he could eat it. It's all ready to eat. The Remeir says Meiser Sheni Mammon Gavayu. Remeir holds when you bring your ma'aser to Yerushalayim, then it becomes that you're b'shulchan gavaya, right? It's mammon gavaya. It's really something that's supposed to be brought to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and you're sitting now and eating from the Rebbeinu Shalom's food. Rabbanan Sabri Mammon had you do. Rabbanan say no. It's a right that you have to eat it in Yerushalayim, but it's yours. Aval b'gvulim, but if you're not in Yerushalayim, dever kol potter. Everyone would agree that it's going to be potter, meaning it's potter from challah because it's certainly mammon gavai. At that point, you have your rights to this ma'aser sheni are very attenuated. You have to bring it to Yerushalayim in order to eat it. Maser Rav Yosef, ma'aser sheni v'kisei hakodesh yignezu. We say in our Mishnah that ma'aser sheni, right? We're going to ask on this din of Isa that we just said. Ma'aser sheni v'kisei hakodesh yignezu. You don't treat it as belonging to the person that you can burn. You could burn it, or right, you burn it together with everything else, but rather you put it aside. But ma'yaskin ilay Yerushalayim. First of all, are you suggesting that this happened when he came to Yerushalayim? Miyavi yerni dachas. Is it possible to have a yerni dachas? Yerushalayim should be yerni dachas. Tanya, asar dvarim nem Yerushalayim v'zu achmei and ein nas yerni dachas. Yerushalayim is excluded from the yerni dachas. Ve'ela bi'er acheres. So we're talking about outside Yerushalayim, where we said that by everyone agrees that you're potter from challah because it's certainly mammon gavaya. So we're talking about it's ir acheres v'askua legava, and you brought it into Yerushalayim. We're talking about the person lives outside Yerushalayim, and that's where he got into this trouble where he became an ir nidachas. But he sent some food into Yerushalayim. So he has this ma'aser sheni that he sent ahead to Yerushalayim. Hakal tu mechitzas. The Gemara says once it's in Yerushalayim, then the mechitzas would already treat it as if he's allowed it. Now it's ready for him to eat, and it's already his food, and it's no longer mammon gavaya. Why do you have to be why does it have to be put away, lirkov, to be rotten? It should be it gets the din that Rashi says more of this, that there's a din once you bring ma'aser sheni into Yerushalayim, you're not allowed to take it out.
So you can eat it.
You could eat it, but the thing is, like we've said before, that when someone in the Ir Nidachas has property outside of the city that he's in, we said it has to be that it's able to be nikvatz. It can be brought back within that day, and this is not able to be brought back within that day. So it shouldn't be. So that's what it means that it's kultura, that the walls have already taken it, that it's no longer part of the possessions of the Ir Nidachas to be destroyed. So why should it be Yerkavu? The din should be that it's able to be eaten. Elalab B'gdulin. Elamai, we're talking about outside of Yerushalayim. Tani Yignazu. And we're saying even so that it goes to Gniza. So why did we say that Meiser Sheni, that everyone agrees you're potter from Meiser Sheni because it's considered to be Mammon Gavaya. We're saying that it has to be Yignazu. Why does it have to be Yignazu? Let people eat it. We're talking about was outside Yerushalayim and it was brought into Yerushalayim. We said that it was kailat the mechitzas. We're talking about truma that's tummy. Ula pirke. And the question is, can you be paid? Generally the rule is once you bring food into Yerushalayim, it's too late. You can no longer be paid. But if it becomes tamei, then you can. What do you know that even though normally once you go into Yerushalayim, you can no longer be paid, but if it's tamei, you can. You can't. Sheisa is where we learn out that you could be paid it, but that's only when you could eat it. But if there's no possibility of eating it because it's tamei, then the isser on being paid in Yerushalayim doesn't affect. Sheneva Yasmi says me'est panav hachamay skinan. So Zak Gemara. Hachamay skinan b'lakuach. We're not talking about ma'aser sheni that has the ability to be nifta. We're talking about where someone had already brought his money, he had been paid his ma'aser and brought the money here, and now he wants to bring that to Yerushalayim. So now there's no ability to be paid. So what eitzah do you have? What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with it? Practically Gemara, Belifrake, the Tnan, Halakuch B'Kesef Ma'aser Shenidma Yifta. We said that, but if it's Tameh, then you can be paid. So how is this going to help our issue? So Gemara, Kav Yehuda, the Amar Yikaver. We're going to the Baal Amar who says that that's not true. No, you can't be paid. That when you buy money, when you have Yehuda holds, you don't have the option, even if it becomes Tameh, to be paid this money of Ma'aser Sheni. This I'm saying, not this money of Ma'aser Sheni, this food that you had purchased with the Ma'aser Sheni, and therefore you're stuck at that point. So we could say our Mishnah that says that this Ma'aser Sheni of Ir Nidachas is Ganuz is talking about where you bought where you didn't bring food from outside, but you had been paid your food outside Yerushalayim. You took that money to Yerushalayim and you bought new food, and that food became tamei, and therefore there's no possibility of pidyon. So you can't be paid it, you can't eat it. So therefore, that's why you have to. It needs geniza. This has really nothing to do with the Ir Nidachas. This is just because it's tamei and you have no other option. It's lakuach and tamei. You're stuck. So, how are we going to understand our Mishnah? Elul oilam bitar. It's not talking about tamei. We're backing away from it. We could go into nafel mechitzas. We're talking about where he brought the Ma'aser Sheni into Yerushalayim, and then there's no mechitzas left. The Amarava mechitza lechail da'iraisa lik like the Rabbanan. That din that once it goes into Yerushalayim, it can no longer leave. That's only midrabanan. He gazer rabbanan kisnu mechitza. Kilesnu mechitza loy. So therefore, we don't have this din that it's not considered kavutz. We're talking about, I guess, a town that's within a day's ride of Yerushalayim, so you could really bring it back, and therefore that's why you're stuck. You don't have an eitzah. Okay, we'll stop over here. Be'ez Hashem, thank you for bearing with.
Thank you. No, this is really very helpful.